Hello, folks, and welcome back to Chris Wyatt Africa here on the Indaba Africa channel. My apologies, we've seemed to be having a few Zoom connection issues here, but we've got it solved now. I have the president and leader of the African Christian Democratic Party, ACDP, here with me tonight. We were co-panelists on an event that took place in Somerset West on the trip where I took the photograph behind me right there. It's a Reverend Kenneth. Now, I always want to make sure I get it correctly, but I'm sure I get it wrong. Reverend Kenneth Meshoe. Did I get your name wrong, sir?
Meshoe, sir, you got it right. It's Meshoe.
Okay, excellent. There we go. We're off to a good start. Hey, listen, some big event apparently is happening on May 29th. I'm not sure. You might have heard about it, an election, a very confusing one. Apparently, every voter will get 3 ballots, and they get to mark an X on all 3.
Yeah, it will be confusing because it will be the first time that voters have 3 ballots, and they're used to 2 ballots. The national one and the provincial one, the state elections. But this time we have independent candidates who also want to be members of parliament, which is the first time we have something like this. So we'll see how it goes. That people will not be too confused with the 3 ballot papers.
Well, let's hope so. I'm still awaiting my passport return from our useless passport agency here in the States. They've now had it for about 6 weeks, and that's supposed to be maximum time to return it. Mine was due to expire after 10 years, so I couldn't get in the country. So hopefully I'll get it. If I do, it'd be a last-minute plane booking. I'll probably have to sell a kidney to pay for that flight to get to Cape Town, but I will be there on the 29th, provided my passport shows up. Listen, Reverend, first I wanted to offer my condolences on the passing of your wife. I realized it was a tragic event, and thoughts and prayers to you and your family on her passing.
Thank you very much. It was a very difficult year of my life. You know, after 46 years, having a wife who's a friend, a partner, advisor, and everything, I had to start making decisions without consulting with my closest friend. So it was very, very difficult for me.
I can imagine you look to turn and that person that's been there, your friend, your confidant, your partner for so long is not there. And at a tumultuous time too, but that hopefully you and your family are doing well now. And we are approaching this amazing event, which appears for certain to be the first time since the ANC rose to power in 1994 that they will not get 50+1 in the national parliament. That seems very likely. The Brenthurst poll put them at 38%. The Ipsos poll, which tends to be more reliable, puts the ANC at 40%. Whatever the case is, it seems certain that the ANC, despite all its efforts, is going to be below 50+1. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we are all looking forward to getting the ANC out of government. They have messed up the country. We are really hoping and praying that it will be a reality, that we will all have a new government that we will be a part of. The ACDP is looking forward to participating in the new government, and we are hoping that there will be a number of surprises because particularly from the ACDP side, publicly, we have not done very well in the past. And one of the main reasons is because of the large percentage of people who call themselves Christians, but who are very loyal to liberation movement leaders. But the interesting thing is that I read an article around 1996 written by a journalist from Kenya who said it takes an average of 30 years for a liberation organization to lose power in Africa, because Africans are generally very loyal. When you blunder, when you steal, when you do so many things and you fail to deliver as the ANC has failed, they will be patient with you. When you say, please give us another chance, give us another chance, give us another chance. But now we are at a stage where they are tired of giving them another chance. They are now looking for alternatives. And a number of them are looking to the ACDP, coming to the ACDP and joining the ACDP, saying, we agree with your values. All these years we were not voting according to our values, but now the time has come and we are grateful for that. That is why I believe that we are going to spring a number of surprises. We'll do much, much well and better than we have done before.
Well, it is interesting. Your party is one of just a handful that professes faith as a key tenet of its party principles. Of course, the African Christian Democratic Party, it's right there in the name of the party. The Freedom Front Plus is another party that shares Christian values. And there's a few on other spectrums and other faiths who support other faiths. But for some reason, it's odd. South Africa is an overwhelmingly Christian country. But as you say, a lot of Christians have been voting at a blind loyalty to a party which is, well, my words, not yours, I think you said this, kind of destroyed South Africa. There was a great opportunity to take the human capital, the natural wealth, and the infrastructure of South Africa in 1994 and advance it to all South Africans and make it the most prosperous place on the continent, one of the most prosperous in the world. But instead, South Africa has gone so far backwards. It's really shocking, all the things that are going on here now. Do you think that in this election that faith will play a larger role and people will start to look to parties that have faith-based principles?
Well, faith will definitely play a part, because one of the main principles that are missing in the South African politics that people now want back is actually the value of respect, truth, and transparency. They have been lied too many times. Now they want people of truth. They've been hiding what they were doing and stealing. So they have not been transparent, but now people are looking for people who are transparent, people who are able to keep their word. The ANC has made promises. They have never kept any of their word. So now people are saying, before we lose everything, we now want people who know that there is a God who's watching over them. Because if there is no God watching over them, then they loot with impunity. So these are some of the things we hear from people who are coming to the ACDP, that we have lost a lot of ground, we have lost opportunities, but now we want people that we can trust, because they don't trust politicians anymore. So we are, the last time are saying, if you fail us, then won't trust any politician anymore. But because you have been steadfast and you have been consistent, we now want to try people like yourselves and see what happens.
Well, in fact, the words that you're talking about seem to be words that are anathema, alien to the ANC. Transparency, they're actually opaque. You can't see anything they're doing. Honest, they lie every single day. Trustworthy,
Correct.
They steal, loot, and they also, one of the most disturbing things I find with the ANC is that it was a multiracial party comprised of all sorts of South Africans with this concept of Rainbow Nation in 1994 with Madiba. And it has become a progressively, and I use that word intentionally, progressively almost all black African party, as they've eliminated colored, Indian, and white faces from their ranks. Look at their top 200 candidates for parliament, and those groups of people are almost completely not represented. You know, it's interesting to hear the ANC talk about how they're trying to build a nation, but whom are they building it for? One segment of society or for all South Africans?
Well, from what we can see and what they are doing, they are definitely building it for one segment of society. The one thing that they managed to hide all these years was that they had a spirit of revenge. They wanted to revenge for their sufferings in the past, their losses in the past, even though the late President Mandela spoke about forgiveness and reconciliation. Some of them have publicly said, no, they're not going to forgive anything. They're just going to fight and get what belongs to them. And so when they are stealing and looting, they take everything, including the little crumbs that are left behind. They just want to take everything before they go. And one unfortunate thing that happened was that they had one can say it's a slogan, but it's a belief that when you come into power and you have suffered, you must get your time to eat. So they came into government saying it is our time to eat, and not to serve and to provide services, but it was their time to eat, and they have never been full. That's why people are seeing even how big they are now, how fat many of them are. So they are saying, no, get out, you have eaten enough, even though you don't want to admit that you have eaten enough.
Well, you actually use a phrase that's become quite common and well known as a consequence of an investigative journalist named Michaela Wrong in Kenya. It's our term to eat, talking about corruption in Kenya, but we use it frequently in the South Africa context these days. You know, it is interesting that, and this is an ironic use of the term because it comes from Afrikaans and from the Anglo-Boer War, but it seems like the old ANC stalwarts, the dyed-in-the-wool communists who were also senior members of ANC and card-carrying South African Communist Party members, and in league with COSATU, part of the evil tripartite alliance. And yes, I do say evil because it doesn't care about black South Africans, although it claims to. But it seems as if these folks could almost be described today, ironically, which may offend some people, especially some Boers, but they can be described as bitter enders because they're out on the campaign trail trying to evoke the ghost of Chris Hani and Steve Biko, and they're trying to talk about liberation. And over half the population was born after 94 and doesn't want to hear about this. They want to hear about jobs and safety and gender-based violence and economic growth. Am I off base here, Reverend, or is what I'm saying making sense?
No, it definitely is making sense because most of the voters now who were born after 94, they are not interested in that. That is why you still have a low percentage of youth that are voting. They want to be educated. They want to go to school. They want grants and loans so that they can further their studies. And they are not getting them. And some of those who have graduated, they don't find jobs. So they are saying, why should we be punished for something that was done even before we were born? So our current voters want services. That is why people who are leaving them are saying they have failed. For the first time, people who were supporters and voters of the ANC are saying they have failed the country. They have failed us. There is nothing that has improved since 1994. It's just poverty, joblessness, and all negative things, crimes, the crime that they are increasing. And obviously, people are fed up. People are really fed up. So after the 29th, few days after the 29th of May, we'll be hearing some good news that Titanic we thought would never sink finally has sunk.
Well, it's certainly listing and taking on a lot of water, that's for sure. And I think that what you're saying, basically, South Africans are hutful of the ANC and its nonsense. I think that's kind of where we're at. But enough of the ANC. I mean, we'll take what few posters they've managed to put up and use them to wrap up, use nappies and to fish after the election. That's about the most useful thing for them. But let's talk about the ACDP. You're a small party, but you're a party with a significant support in the Western Cape in particular. Now, I've read through your manifesto, and this is one of the first things that jumps out right there at the beginning. The ACDP supports an open market economy with social conscience, which is great terms for me rather than hearing this nonsense of social justice, which is really just getting even. But with a social conscience, our economic policies seek to address high levels of unemployment, poverty, and inequality by growing the economy at a faster rate. It sounds like you are focused on free market principles and capital and the rule of law and land ownership and property ownership. That seems to be where your focus is. Is that a correct assessment?
Well, it is definitely correct. We know and we understand that if the atmosphere and the climate is not conducive for job creation, then we will never solve the problems that we have. ANC over the years has been saying to voters, we are going to create 2 million jobs. The following election, we are going to create 1 million jobs. So they've made so many promises about creating jobs. Finally, they got the message that it is not government's responsibility to create jobs, but it's the private sector. So now I was glad that the president a few months ago, this past year, he said it is not the job of government to create jobs. And we said to him, welcome, Mr. President, to reality. All these years you were lying to people that you will create jobs because you don't have the expertise and the skills to do that. You must keep criminals out of our communities. And they have failed with that again. So they have failed with the most important responsibility of any government with it solved, which is to stop criminality, to arrest criminals, close the borders, and make sure that criminals from other countries do not just come get free tickets to come into South Africa, as it is the case right now. So ACDP wants to have a strong economy, because with a strong economy, we believe the people who are hungry are going to be fed. The people who are jobless are going to get jobs. And so we will become a prosperous country. That is our dream. That is our prayer. That is what we are working for, to have a prosperous country. Because looking at South Africa, there is no reason why anybody in South Africa should go to bed hungry. We have everything that we need to have a good economy in this country.
100%. But it's going to be very challenging for government after May 29th, when you've got 14 days to form a government. But what's going to be challenging, I believe, is that there has been almost breakneck pace by the ANC as it's crumbling. And I think they realize that, to rush through legislation which will cripple South Africa. A number of things have been passed through for Ramaphosa's signature, including earlier today, grinning like the cheetah who just got the leopard's meal, or the vice versa, the leopard who got the cheetah's meal. You've got the Bella, the Basic Education Laws Amendment, which is going to have dramatic impact on culture and language and homeschooling, as well as putting parents in prison. Then you've got this Intel law that's giving the incompetent intelligence agencies even more power. The hate speech law, which is basically going to be used as a tool by the government, if the ANC remains in power, to oppress their opponents or frighten them into not speaking. And then the most drastic and dangerous piece of legislation, which was signed into law today, which will likely face unconstitutional challenges in the court, and that's the national health insurance, which basically nationalizes your healthcare sector. The ANC already promises free healthcare to the poor and doesn't deliver. Now, after 30 years, they suddenly care, and they're going to expropriate the private healthcare sector. What are your thoughts on NHI, Reverend?
Well, NHI is doomed to fail. And a number of parties, including the ACDP, will take this bill to the Constitutional Court. And one of our complaints, obviously, is that they want to deny us the right to choose. The right to choose is one of the most basic rights that we have enjoyed to an extent as South Africans. So we do not have sufficient money. We have doctors and health workers who are unemployed, because government is saying there is no money, even though government hospitals are struggling with insufficient health workers. There is no money to employ them. Now, with having a government that does not have money to employ them, when we ask questions, how are you going to fund this National Health Insurance Act now? Because it has been signed as an act now. How are you going to fund them? They don't want to answer the question, because they know that they don't have money. This whole thing is going to fail. But it is a political strategy to say to people, you can go into any hospital, any clinic, even those that were used mainly by white people. Now you have a right. You can just walk in there and get free services. So we know it is not going to happen. That's why the ACDP has voted against it, and we believe this thing is definitely going to fail, and the courts are also going to oppose it, particularly the Constitutional Court, because people that have been having medical aids, those medical aids are now going to be shut down. They want to destroy the economy, not only the economy, but also the opportunities for people to get good health. So the ACDP is totally opposed to it, and we don't think it is going to see the light of day.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I've been railing against it ever since this idiocy was introduced back in 2018. It's sheer lunacy. In my country, Barack Obama destroyed the healthcare sector with his Affordable Care Act, or as I prefer to call it, the Unaffordable Care Act, by jerry-rigging the insurance market. We got no more doctors, no more clinics, no more machines, no more services, no more access to general practitioners. All we got was quintupling of the price of healthcare, and it's really been a detriment for Americans. It's the last thing South Africa needs. It's a busy campaign season. You're going to have to take off here shortly, but I want to get to a couple more things before I lose you, Reverend. The first is your party joined the multi-party charter last year at Emperor's Palace. I was there covering that as a journalist, and you and I didn't get a chance to speak. I did speak to most of the other party leaders, but that decision, a lot of people are confused about. They think it's a coalition. It's not really a coalition. It was an agreement to work together to unseat the ANC. And in the meantime, your parties, if I'm not mistaken, have been discussing things behind the scenes on what a potential coalition could look like and if your parties will come together after May 29th. Is that an accurate description? And why did you join the MPC?
Well, most people believe that we are going to have a coalition government. Now, when the MPC was announced, they said, firstly, every party will retain its autonomy. Every party will have the right to oppose, but if they disagree, to disagree maybe is a better word. And then these parties are going to create a kind of a framework. They are going to make agreement about how, when the need for a coalition arises, how they are going to operate. If there are differences, how they're going to deal with them. And we thought to ourselves that because we believe we will be part of that coalition government, we need to also have a say. We do not want them to make decisions that are going to affect us after the elections. So the wise thing to do is to be around the table with the guys so that when we get in together, we will not have to go back to look at, but we have not prepared for this. We are not prepared for this. So I think we are prepared for whatever is going to come, and people are not going to fight for a position, but everything will be done by consensus. And if at all we don't all agree, then we'll put it to a vote. So the fact is that with this MPC, every party has their same equal right to others to put whatever they want on the table, what they are happy about, what they are not happy about, and every party has the right to lead what happens during the time of the multi-party negotiations. So it is a good move that the ACDP was comfortable with. And I want to repeat what you said, that this is not a coalition, because the position of the ACDP has been a coalition can only be formed after the elections when you know the strength of your partners.
That's well stated. So there's a couple new kids on the block here, particularly in the Western Cape. Some are making noise and waves, and I'm curious if you think it's going to have an impact on your turnout and your vote total, or if you think you're going to be, if it's not going to affect you. So I've asked other parties about the impact in KZN of MK, Mkhonto Sizwe, but in the Western Cape, you've got the Referendum Party, which has stood up recently and seems to be getting some traction. And then, of course, it's been around since the last election, but I'll call them new kids on the block because they just got 6,600 votes in 2019, and that is Gate McKenzie's Patriotic Alliance, which seems to be getting traction with colored voters, in particular the largest block of voters in the Western Cape. Are these parties having an impact, or are you increasing your support, or do you not see them as a challenge to you?
Well, I don't see them as a challenge to the ACDP because the ACDP has a track record of 30 years. Okay, while we welcome new kids on the block and people know that naturally when new people come, they should come with new ideas. But at the same time, when people are complaining about the lack of trust, they are able to say, we have seen the ACDP for 30 years. We can trust them. They don't say one thing and do the opposite. So these guys are new. We are not sure how far we can trust them, because when a person starts in politics, you will say all the good things that people want to hear. But whether you are going to remain true to them, there is no assurance. But with us, the ACDP, people are saying these people have a track record. They have never been accused of corruption. They have never been involved in anything untoward. They have been people whose track record is admirable. People admire our track record. That's why we are not worried about these new parties. Obviously, others are going to be affected, and Mkhonto Sizwe definitely is eating into the ANC base, into the EFF base. That's why people should not be surprised when ACDP does better than the EFF even. Why? Because people are now looking for those they can trust, those who say we are going to deliver on services and they will keep their word.
Well, two final questions for you, because I know you've got to rush off for another event here in a busy campaign season. And I know how it goes. I recently ran for office and lost. So I know how much time that consumes. But
Try again. Try again.
Yeah. Well, next time I'll take donations. This time I refused. I took it out of my own pocket. Next time I'll take the donations. But so two final questions. But thank you for that advice to try again. Your party has come out in support of Israel, which was attacked by a terror state on October 7th. And hostages taken, all rules of the law of land warfare broken, the Geneva Convention broken by Hamas, and you've come out in support of Israel's position as self-defense. Meanwhile, the ANC is actively in the Western Cape trying to curry Muslim voters by taking a pro-Palestine stance. Is this having any effect at all in the campaign? I don't see it. There's a lot of in the press, but on the ground, are people actually going to care about making their vote, whether someone supports Israel or supports Hamas?
People have been saying, well, we are divided. The people on the ground are divided. There are those who support Hamas and Palestinians, and many of them do it out of ignorance. They base their support on what they see on the television screen. Some of us, fortunately, have been to Israel. We have seen what is happening there. When the ANC accuses Israel of being an apartheid state, we can confidently say, no, come with us and show us where there is apartheid in Israel. And they don't want to accept the invitation. I have challenged some of them and said, I will pay for your ticket. I'll get a sponsor to pay for you. Come with me and show me where there is apartheid. They don't want to do that. And we are told there are a number of ANC members who went to go and check for themselves. And when they came back, they changed their minds. They said, no, we did not find anywhere that looks like apartheid in Israel. But it is unfortunate that there has been so much loss of life. Yeah. And it is unfortunate that the international community, I believe, has been biased against Israel. Now, I have said in Parliament that the international community with South Africa can easily stop this war in Gaza if they want to. There is no will to stop it. And I've said the three basic things that need to happen if they want to stop that Gaza war. Number one, Hamas should release all hostages unconditionally. That should be the first thing. They must release them. But secondly, they should shut down all the tunnels. All the tunnels must be shut down, because there is none of us. People are hypocrites. When you ask them, can you be happy and feel secure when there is somebody living in your basement who is threatening to kill you? How will you sleep? Somebody is in your basement. So you have these Hamas terrorists who are in the tunnels, okay? And the international community is expecting Israel to say, okay, they are not going to harm us, when they said it themselves that they will harm them. But the third important thing that I believe has to be done is that both Hamas and Palestinians must accept the right of Israel to exist within safe and secure borders. How can you have a neighbor you can trust when that neighbor is saying, whenever I get an opportunity, I'm going to get rid of you, I'm going to remove you from the face of the earth? So it boggles my mind. It shocks me that even the UN does not say to Hamas, accept the right of Israel to exist. They are refusing to do that, and that's why this war will never stop. They will just shout and scream and condemn Israel, but the war will not stop until they accept the right of Israel to exist within safe and secure borders. And I must say, well, on this one, I'm very disappointed to see what's happening on American universities. You know, when you think of university, you think of people who reason, people who think for themselves, not people who just want to go with the flow, but people who think for themselves, people who research, all right? But unfortunately, they just follow the mob and they just support the wind. Wherever it blows, they go with the wind. But I pray that God will raise up men and women and students in universities who research, find truth, and stand for truth without trying to buy favors of those who are politically correct. In the ACDP, we are not interested in being politically correct. We want to be biblically correct at all times.
Well, that's well stated. And in fact, it's simply willful ignorance. It's intentional ignorance. I mean, we hear the stupidity of people who don't know the history. You and I have lived this history. We've seen it. I lived in Israel. I've seen up close and personal how Arabs and Muslims are part of the IDF, including general officers. They're justices.
Correct.
They all vote. They all own land. There's no segregation or there's no Jew-only neighborhoods, Christian-only neighborhoods, Druze. That's horse manure. It's all lies, and it's perpetrated by leftists. But it's willful ignorance. In fact, it was we keep hearing a two-state solution. It was offered. Ehud Barak at the Oslo summit with Bill Clinton offered a two-state solution, and Yasser Arafat turned it down. They don't want a two-state solution. They want to eliminate the Jews. That's the bottom line. And we hear gays for Gaza. Okay, go be a homosexual in Gaza and see how well that goes for you. And then the next one is Israel out of Gaza. Hello, newsflash. Israel abandoned Gaza in 2005 and hasn't been there since 2005. Hamas was provoked. Really? Hamas is the one that fired tens of thousands of rockets into Israeli settlements, at schools, hospitals, clinics. And if it wasn't for the Iron Dome, we'd have hundreds of thousands of Israeli casualties. We can go on forever, Reverend, so I'll stop it there. But one final question for you. And this one, I would like your take on this. I have been all over South Africa. I've been there probably 500 trips now, and I've spent a fair amount of time, and I've lived all over the continent of Africa over the past 2.5 decades, including in Botswana and Malawi. And my experience in South Africa is that most South Africans are conservative people, people of faith, people who believe in country and are patriotic. And black, white, brown, Indian, colored, it doesn't matter. Most people do not dislike or hate other people. It's the media and political parties that stoke racial hatred. Now, there are some racists. I mean, look, you can't get rid of stupid people.
Sure.
There's always going to be stupid people of all skin hues. But the bottom line is my experience in South Africa, most South Africans just want to get along, raise their family, have a decent life, and worship in freedom. Would you agree with that, or am I off again?
No, you are 120% correct. Most South Africans are peaceful people who want to get on with their lives, who want to help their neighbors and together move the country forward. But you have these journalists who just want to report on confrontation, wars, fightings, and so on. So you are correct that the majority of South Africans are peaceful people. Majority of South Africans are good people. You know, it reminds one of what the former UK Member of Parliament Edmund Burke once said, that for evil to triumph, it takes good men and women to do nothing. Unfortunately, most of good people in South Africa are quiet. They don't speak out. It is the few radical ones who are very aggressive, who are very loud, and the media give them an opportunity to make their noises on television. And if you even look at what's happening right now during campaigning, who is given the most time to be on television? The one given the most time is the one who shouts, even if it's nonsense. They give you more time to shout nonsense and divide the people. But we who want to build the country, who want to hold all different groups together, who want to say to blacks, whites, Indians, and colors, we are of one nation. Let us build a prosperous South Africa together. ANC does not allow that to happen. They are pushing the race card whenever it suits them. But I still believe ANC will be out. Although it's going to be difficult to rebuild, we will rebuild South Africa, and it will become one of the most beautiful, peaceful, and prosperous countries that it was meant to be.
Well, one can only hope and pray that that's the future for South Africa, that the ANC is in the minority and learns a very hard lesson and behaves themselves and learns about transparency and good governance instead of kleptocracy and opaqueness. But Reverend Kenneth Meshoe, sir, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for your time. I know you've got an event to get to. We'll hopefully talk to you again, maybe after the election, and see how things went. And best of luck to the ACDP as you hope to get as many seats as possible and as many votes to unseat the ANC and potentially be part of a coalition. God bless you.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your program, and God bless you too and all your viewers.
Thank you very much. Folks, the Reverend Kenneth Meshoe, the president of the ACDP, I'll go ahead and put him in the waiting room, and I'll let him drop off. Thank you, sir. Okay, there we go. All right, there you go, folks. Reverend Kenneth Meshoe from the African Christian Democratic Party. I hope that you found that informative and interesting. Certainly an articulate and very well-informed man, and he's been around for a while. And like he said, his party is one of the few that's never been involved in any corruption, never accused of anything untoward. So if you're looking for a place to vote, take a look at the ACDP. It's an opportunity. It's a choice out there. It's up to you. So thanks a lot, folks. Appreciate it. We'll be back in about 15 minutes with the Conscious Clerical. Ernst van Sale will be talking about race-based legislation in South Africa for a short period of time. And meanwhile, breaking news, which I released a video on earlier, the Prime Minister of Slovakia was shot at an event in the center of Slovakia earlier today, about 3 or 4 hours ago, was listed in critical condition after being hit with multiple shots. We don't know the current status of Robert Fico, but he was evacuated by helicopter to a hospital to be treated. The attempted assassination took place in a small village founded by ethnic Germans back in the 14th century, but now occupied almost exclusively by Slovaks after they were kicked out of the country back in the 1940s after the Second World War. Once again, Robert Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, shot today in an assassination attempt. The assailant was captured at the scene, and we don't know the motivation. Thanks for tuning in, and we appreciate it. And thanks to our guest, Reverend Kenneth Meshoe. It was a pleasure to have him on. And continuing coverage of South Africa's 2024 national and provincial elections is coming your way right here on Chris Wyatt on the Indaba Africa channel. Thank you all very much. Have a lovely day, and we'll be back shortly. Cheers.